Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be a discussion about how to prepare yourself for Faction Wars when it is released, so let's get into it. Alrighty, so we don't know exactly what Faction Wars is going to be, admittedly, so most of this video is going to be me kind of theory crafting around kind of what I expect it to be and just kind of preparing in general. What we do know is that only champions of a certain faction are going to be able to be used. That's what we do know. Like, you know, currently, if you're fighting the clan boss, you can use 5 different champions from 5 different factions, and it makes it much easier to build a team. But when we're doing faction wars, we're going to have to be much more specific with our army. And this is why the in-game teaser kind of hints twice at the end. Prepare, train teams of champions from each faction and ready them for the wars to come. And then again it says, hint, you'll need to rely on all your champions. Do not sacrifice champions unless you have adequate replacements from the same faction. So it says twice basically, like, hey, you know, get your stuff together and prepare for, you know, having an army of each faction ready to go. So I would assume we're gonna need, you know, 4 to 5 characters of each faction ready to go, and we're going to need to fill in different roles. We're going to need some sustain, we're going to need, you know, some damage, and we're going to need, you know, buffers and debuffers. We're going to need to fill all the roles to make a successful team. You know, I don't know if it's going to be more AoE or more single target. It'll probably require a mixture of both, I would assume, but you know, I'll go over kind of an example of how to kind of theory craft preparing for faction wars and kind of how I think about it. So, you know, I'll pull up the Barbarians. This is a good example. Okay, so you're guaranteed to get High Katoon. High Katoon is probably going to be a good champion for faction wars because we're going to get a 19% ally speed in all battles, so it's guaranteed to work. I don't know if Faction Wars is going to count as a dungeon or if it's going to be like the clan boss where you need to have all battles. I would assume it's probably going to be a dungeon, but don't quote me on that, I'm not for sure. But we know High Katoon's aura says all battles, so that will be an aura that's pretty good for Faction Wars. And then she's also going to have some good, you know, meter and speed buffing for our team, and she also has an AoE attack that decreases turn meter, so she is a good candidate for someone to lead our Barbarian faction team, and you're guaranteed to get her. Now, the thing that's bad about High Katoon is she is an epic, and we have to be careful in using legendaries and epics because, you know, we're not going to have 200 legendary and epic books laying around. We're going to need, you know, to invest in rares and uncommons. We're going to need champions that are cheaper to invest in because we're not going to have enough epic and legendary books to spread ourselves too thin in the epic and legendary department. So you're probably going to need to pick like 1 legendary and 1 epic, you know, combined. Like pick 1 epic or legendary and then like 1 or 2 rares and then maybe an uncommon. We're going to need to start at least with some budget teams to do well, you know, in faction wars because, you know, we just don't have enough books. It'd be too expensive. So good candidates here for the Barbarians would be like War Maiden. This is one that's farmable in the campaign. She has an AoE, you know, 60% defense down. You know, normally for AoE attacks, we're looking, can we get it to a 3-turn cooldown? And we can. This is an AoE that we can get to a 3-turn cooldown, and it provides a good debuff. So War Maiden would again be a solid candidate for, you know, a cheaper option in faction wars, and you can get her in the campaign. You can also farm skill books for her from the campaign because we can sacrifice duplicate champions. Every, you know, War Maiden you farm in the campaign, you could, it's a skill book that you've just farmed for that character. So that's another one that would be a good candidate. And then down here, there's actually a couple good uncommons for the Barbarians. We've got Shield Guard is a pretty good uncommon because of this ability here. It's on a 2-turn cooldown as an AoE, which is really good. And then it's going to fill the turn meter for each crit. So, you know, Shield Guard can really snowball. It's already on a 2-turn cooldown, and we can fill that turn meter up with every crit. So Shield Guard is a great option and is very cheap. We can get uncommons in the shop and from green shards, so these uncommons are very budget. They are easy to max out, you're basically guaranteed to be able to max them out. They're cheap to ascend, so we can really get ourselves a budget team going by focusing on the best uncommons. And I'll kind of go over the uncommons that I think are best in the game that you should watch out for. Sticking with the Barbarians though, Zephyr Sniper is another one that we would want to go for. We've got an AoE on ability 1, which is always good, especially for, you know, cheap characters that we're looking to just kind of invest in. 100 base speed is great, and then we've also got a little bit of sustain, so we're bringing a little bit of utility to kind of, you know, top off our team and keep us healed up. So kind of your budget Barbarian team would revolve around like High Katoon, War Maiden, Shield Guard, Zephyr Sniper, and then, you know, one other rare or epic that you can kind of throw in there that you have. That would be kind of a good starting point for a Barbarian Faction Wars team that has some good utility, a speed aura, a meter booster, an AoE decreased defense, and then a couple good AoE damage characters with a little bit of sustain on Zephyr Sniper. So that's kind of like the thought process when it comes to building an intro to a team to be successful in Faction Wars. Another example of something similar to War Maiden is Heiress. We can see here that Heiress is a rare high elf, and I actually ended up with a lot of her because she drops in the campaign where you farm the speed set. So I ended up with a lot of copies of her because I was farming for the speed set. So I figured I might as well max out her skills, and now I have a maxed out Heiress sitting in my vault. So my team for Faction Wars could look something like Elaine, Heiress, and then I've already invested in Tyrell and Royal Guard and Arbiter. So I would have a pretty good team kind of just basically set up going that route. Not a very good uncommon in the High Elves, unfortunately. But, you know, and Bannerlords is a good example of this because Bannerlords is a tough one. None of these rares are very good. Valerie does drop in the campaign, but doesn't really bring a whole lot of healing or anything. It's just a shield buff and an increased duration of all ally buffs, but doesn't bring any sustain. So, you know, it's very tough. So normally I would say that Commander isn't a very good uncommon, but for the Bannerlords Faction Wars, it's a character that has a 101 base speed and a 3-turn 40% heal. So normally Commander wouldn't be very good, but since it is going to be tough to kind of fill that sustain healing role in the Bannerlords, Commander might be one that you should consider building for like a budget Bannerlords team. Some other really good uncommons to take a look at would be Sacred Order. There is Sister Militant. She's kind of a popular intro level, you know, budget hero because she just has the one ability and it's going to be an AoE. So she's just going to kind of do consistent AoE damage. So, you know, a really kind of introductory, you know, good AoE character. Another, you know, good one would be in the Lizardmen is Saurus. Saurus is kind of the same concept as Sister Militant. He only does AoE. He's got 2 abilities. They all do AoE, and then just as a bonus, he's also got the heal reduction, so that's always good there. Also, if we go to the Dark Elves, there's another diamond in the rough. Spirit Host is farmable in the campaign and brings a lot of solid utility, a base speed of 103, a speed aura, and a really good 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns. We can get it to a 3-turn cooldown. So one that you're going to want to grab, and one that you can also farm in the campaign to get duplicates of. So Sniper is a really good uncommon in the in the Dark Elves. So, you know, we've got, you know, an A1 that fills turn meter, and then we've got an A2 that is an AoE on a 3-turn cooldown that provides a good debuff. So Sniper is a good uncommon to kind of look at. And then also, even cheaper is Ranger, a common character that is actually going to be a really good budget character for Faction Wars. Attack 1 enemy and a chance to decrease speed, which is good, and then an AoE on a 2-turn cooldown. So very good there. Anytime we can get an AoE on a 2-turn cooldown, that's a good budget character to start with. So, you know, I don't want to ramble too long in in this video, but basically the common theme when we're building an introductory, Faction Wars team to kind of just get generally prepared, we want cheap characters that do AoE on a 3-turn cooldown or less, or characters that kind of help our team sustain. They provide increased defense, or they provide healing, or they provide increased attack, something to buff our team up, something that debuffs the enemy team, ideally debuffing their speed or their defense, and characters that just do good damage and provide good utility, characters that are cheap to get skill books for, like characters that we can farm in the campaign, or uncommons and commons that we can get skill books for from green shards and also in the shop. We want to take a look at the market. We want to look out for those good ones like Shield Guard and Sniper and Zephyr Sniper and Saurus, those good cheap uncommons that we can max out their skills and get some utility out of them for the Faction Wars. Now, when we learn more about Faction Wars, I plan on doing much more in-depth stuff to help you out and gear up and get ready. But as of right now, I wanted to get something out to the community so that we're within probably 2 to 4 months of Faction Wars coming out, so it is a good time to be proactive and start just kind of looking for those commons and uncommons and those campaign rares, so that we're able to, when the time comes, we'll have some characters that we've invested in that have good skills and they are ready to go. You don't necessarily have to 6-star them. Just get their skills maxed up, get them to 3 or 4 stars, keep them in the vault, and just have them ready to go, so that when we see exactly what Faction Wars is, we can pull them out of the vault and get our team set up in the right way and be ready to rock with a direction that we have in mind. So yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments and how you are preparing for Faction Wars, and anything that I missed. I always love to hear what you guys think. So yeah, as always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.